There is no law governing how Chamas should learn.
Welcome to today's episode of Real Estate in Kenya. My name is Sarah Wahogo, CEO at Username Investment Limited. As usual, today we have our company advocate, Mr. Wanjohi Gishango. And I keep saying that when you see Wakili here, he's helping us get insights into making the right decisions. Now, Wakili, we have seen a lot of people invest in real estate through Chamas.
Yes.
No, there are known examples of wealthier
Yes.
men, who invested in downtown Nairobi. I've seen so many other chamas who have come together, pooled resources, and invest big. However, they start small.
Yes.
So our topic today is how to invest in real estate through chamas. And we want to make our viewer understand that actually chamas are legal channels of investing.
Sure.
Not only in real estate, it can be any other investment. So, what exactly is a chama in legal terms?
There is no legal definition of what a chama is. We can basically define it as a welfare group, people joining together, and then have that collective objective or goal to make common or join hands to make investments together.
People sometimes come together.
Yes.
And sometimes the group is informal.
Yes.
So how do you formalize that welfare?
As I have said, there are no legal definition because there is no statutory instruments governing Chamas. Chamas are basically registered under the Ministry of Social Protection and Labor Services. And they are registered at the county offices under the Department of Social Services, whereby, you get together as a group, come up with your constitution, elect officials, and then present the minutes of your meeting where you conceptualized this idea of a chama. And upon presentation now of the constitution and the minutes, and the payment of a fee of, I think, 1,000, then you are registered as a chama and you are given a registration certificate. Okay. But now the challenge is that registration certificate does not give that chama any legal capacity because it is not underpinned under any statutory framework. There is no law governing how chamas should learn. But upon that, it merely gives recognition by a department of government that there is a chama known as username chama, and these are its members, these are its officials, this is the constitution of the chama.
So Wakili, yes, what is the legal process of registering a chama?
It is a pretty straightforward process. The requirements are, once you come together and decide that you are registering a chama, you have to have a meeting. Okay, in that meeting you will have minutes, and you will elect at least 3 officials: the chairperson, the secretary, and the treasurer. You will also come up with a constitution and adopt it in your meeting, and the minutes need to reflect that you adopted that constitution. Okay, you also need to correct copies of IDs of the members who are present at that meeting, or people who intend to be part of membership of that chama. Once you have those documents, they are presented at the sub-county offices of the social officer, who now, upon satisfaction that the minutes are okay, the constitution is okay, and all the IDs are there of members, we register the chama and issue you with a certificate of registration now signed by the county commissioner. Because, as I have said, there is no statutory framework that governs chamas. Yes. And upon registration now, you are issued with a certificate. You can open a bank account, but because it is not recognized as a legal entity, it cannot own property in its own name. It cannot sue or be sued in its own name. Everything has to be done through the elected officials. Okay, for instance, if you buy a parcel of land, you cannot register that parcel of land in the name of the chama. Okay, let's for instance say it is username welfare group. That title cannot read username welfare group. It would have to read Sarah, Maureen, and Virginia as the trustees of username as welfare group.
The next question, I want us to be specific on real estate investment.
Yes.
I have this chama that would want to invest in real estate.
Yes.
How best do we structure this chama to invest in real estate?
Okay. The chama in itself can invest in as a chama using its certificate of registration. The only limitation there, and I think it's a major challenge, everything has to be done in the names of officials. Okay? And therefore, when it comes to registration, if an official leaves or there is a disagreement between the officials and the members, then that becomes a challenge because for that particular official who appears on your documents, for any transaction to happen, they must be there. And remember, the register at the office of county commissioner reflects that official. So unless you remove that official and then you have already registered them on the title, to remove them on the title, it's a tedious process. So the best way for chamas to invest is to convert themselves into a legal entity. And in this case, I would advise 3. Number 1 is to convert into a limited liability company.
Okay.
Number 2 is to register as a limited liability partnership. Number 3 is to, if depending again on the number of members, you know, if it's a huge group, let's say like over 50 or over 100 people, you can register a cooperative society. And in this case, a special cooperative society, those are the ones that are known as investment cooperative societies. A limited liability company is would have shareholders who are now the members. Okay, they would have to come up with a name in which they what they intend to call their company, and then they would have to elect directors and formally register the company. Okay, the advantage of a company is that there is a law governing how companies ought to be run. There is the Companies Act of 2015, so that it becomes very easy to administrator or to operate the affairs of the company, because once you have put directors in place, the directors have their roles and responsibilities other than those governed in the constitution of the chama. There are those obligations given by the law. Okay. Then there is the issue of shareholding. It becomes very easy to assign shares because shares will be as per contributions. What now the members will only have to decide is what is the value of each share. Okay, and what would happen, for instance, if one member wants to exist? Can they do they sell to their shares to an existing member? Do they sell their shares to an outsider? Directors can pass a resolution. All these issues can be addressed in an AGM of the company. Yes.
Okay, you talked about the limited liability company. What about limited liability partnership?
A limited liability partnership is like a union of the general partnerships as we understand them and a company. Why do I say it's like a union? Because it's a partnership where the liability of members, number 1, are limited, subject to your contribution or capital that you have invested in that partnership. Number 2, unlike normal partnerships, that limited liability is given a legal entity. It can sue and be sued in its own name, and it can also own property in its own name. And therefore, it becomes a good investment tool. Another key highlight of limited liability partnerships is the issue of taxation. Because unlike a company, once a company declares profits, pays tax on its profit, Then a shareholder receives the dividend.
Yes.
And the shareholder is also supposed to pay tax on the dividend. But limited liability partnership, the partnership declares profit, pays its corporate tax at 30%, but the share of profits to the partners is not taxed. Yes, so there is that benefit of taxation. So it's therefore a great investment tool, especially for people who want to who are starting who are investing in land as a business. Okay, not just for holding. They are trading with land. It becomes a great vehicle for investment.
Would you mind mentioning something about the cooperative society?
Cooperative societies are now registered under the Cooperative Societies Act. They also fall under the Ministry of Trade and Cooperatives. And again, they would have to be registered formally under the Ministry of Cooperatives. A cooperative society also, once registered, it is now governed by the Cooperative Societies Act, whereby you would have to elect officials, and those officials become like directors of that cooperative society, and all the decisions are taken by members in an AGM. Okay, and there is a difference I would want to highlight between a company and a cooperative, because in a cooperative society, they use what they call as democratic principles. Okay, it's one member, one vote.
Okay.
Unlike a company whereby the weight of your vote
Yes.
is equivalent to the number of shares that you hold. Okay, so that a cooperative society becomes more democratic, if I may put that in quotes, to run than a company. Because a company, majority shareholders may make a decision that minority shareholders are not happy with. But when it comes to a cooperative society, all members are equal. And therefore, it is also a great investment tool, especially where the members are many. I mean, we know at the advent of independence, Kenyans were being encouraged to form cooperative societies so that they could buy the land that was being left by the white settlers.
Okay.
Yes. And also, I mean, they would also form companies. There are many examples of such companies. We have, for instance, the very infamous one, Boy Committee. Yes, where they would sell shares, and members would get parcels of land equivalent to the shares they held. Okay.
Yeah.
Another good example is the Degwa. The Degwa was also a company that bought land from a departing white settler, and again, members would be given land equivalent to the number of shares you held. In central Kenya, especially in Nyeri, the cooperative societies would buy land and then subdivide mostly in areas like Laikipia or in Nyandarua. I mean, there are other famous self-help groups that converted into companies. For instance, Nyakenywa self-help group that owns the land in Naivasha.
Okay.
Yes.
Mwanamuke.
Yeah, those such companies or cooperative societies.
So these are people who had come together,
Yes.
but formalized.
Yes.
So that it's not just a self-help or a chama.
Yes.
But now it had the legal
Yes,
structure.
To create legal structures that would enable them to collect money from members and buy land or invest this money on behalf of members.
So for a member of a chama,
yes,
and probably I know you have advised that don't trade in real estate as a chama.
Yes.
The best is to convert it into a limited liability company or a limited liability partnership or a cooperative society.
Yes.
What are the key considerations?
Okay. The key considerations, number one, is the objective. Okay. If you are investing in land to trade in land, I would advise, because of tax implications, a limited liability partnership becomes the best. Okay, because of tax considerations.
Okay.
If we are in huge numbers, maybe 100, 150. Again, a cooperative society becomes the best. Because again, making decisions become easier. It does not get a lot of disputes because again, it is based on democratic principles. One member, one vote.
Okay.
Yes. If you are a smaller number of people and you are investing in land to hold land, and again, depending on the contributions you make, then a company becomes better because the contributions may vary, and then you would issue shares according to each person's contributions. And then that company will have directors who have their obligations under the law as well as under the constitution of the Chama, and then shareholders.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Wakili.
You are welcome.
Viewers, we have come to the end of today's episode of Real Estate in Kenya. You've heard it from the expert. If you have a chama, whether it's formalized or not, you need to consider to convert it to a limited liability company or a limited liability partnership or a cooperative society, because it will give you a better end or a better hand or an upper hand in investing in properties. Thank you so much for watching. I know you have learned a thing or two. See you in our next video.